What the hell happened to this break room? Jonah Granger muttered under his breath as he stepped into the back of Store 9, holding a stack of outdated paper forms and a clipboard that looked like it came from the early 2000s. The smell of overused microwaves and mildew hit him hard. The ceiling's fluorescent lights flickered. The vending machine was out of order, with a handwritten "Do Not Touch" sign taped across it. This wasn't how his father ran things. Jonah, now 39, inherited the 13-location office supply chain 3 years ago after his dad passed. Business had grown, but something was off. Complaints had trickled in from anonymous employee surveys: low morale, high turnover, especially at Store 9. But the district numbers?
Clean.
Too clean. That's why he was here. Disguised as Daniel, a quiet temp from a staffing agency complete with a fake employee file, glasses, a trimmed beard, and dyed darker hair. None of the floor staff had met him before. He never visited this location personally. The company had grown too fast, and the faces too many. That was a mistake. "Yo, new guy," a voice barked from across the break room. A tall man with a crooked tie and heavy eyes pointed at Jonah. "You're the temp, right? Go see Olivia. She's in receiving." Jonah nodded. "Thanks. What was your name?" "Manager." The guy snapped, already walking off. "You don't need to know it." Receiving was a maze of metal racks and stacked paper boxes. Olivia Kern stood near the back, clipboard in hand, organizing a shipment. Short brown curls tied into a messy bun, blue ink smudged across her forearm, and a look in her eyes that said she hadn't had a proper break in hours. "You're the temp?" she asked without turning, voice tired but sharp.
Yeah.
"Daniel."
Cool.
"We're backed up. I've got you on filing forms and sorting returns. Can you read handwriting that looks like it was done by a raccoon?" Jonah chuckled. "I'll do my best." She gave him a quick smile, then handed him a tall stack of crumpled papers. "If you survive this, you get real work." Jonah got to it. First hour, he fumbled. Second hour, he started to get the system. Olivia didn't hover, but she checked in with him between her own tasks. She moved fast, worked harder than anyone he'd ever seen, and never once raised her voice. When his shift ended, he stayed another hour to help her clean up. She didn't ask, he just did. "You clock out?" she asked as they shut the backroom lights. "I didn't even clock in," Jonah said without thinking. She glanced at him.
Huh.
"I'll fix it tomorrow. Thanks for staying." The next morning things got strange. At 8 sharp, the manager from yesterday Jonah learned his name was Trent came into the back room clapping his hands. "All right, listen up. I need Olivia, Greg, and the new guy Daniel, right? To stay late tonight. We're overloaded, and corporate wants numbers up." Jonah raised a hand. "I thought temps can't do overtime." Trent looked at him like he'd grown a second head. "Don't worry. It's not official. You just
Keep working.
clock out like normal. We'll handle it." Olivia didn't say a word. She just kept organizing labels. Later, when they were alone, Jonah asked, "That normal?" She hesitated. "Trent's been doing this for months. Makes people stay late, but off the clock. He calls it volunteering. If you don't, he cuts your hours. Or schedules you weekends only." Jonah's stomach turned. "And no one says anything?"
We did.
Nothing changed. District manager came once, but Trent put on a show. Claims overtime's always approved. Besides, half the staff scared of being replaced. That night, Jonah stayed late again. He watched as Olivia and 2 other workers, Greg and Mia, kept filing and organizing while the time clock sat untouched. At 10:15, Trent popped his head in. "Appreciate the hustle. Don't forget, all of you are off the clock, yeah? Let's not make things messy." Olivia nodded. Greg looked down. Mia whispered something under her breath and slammed a box shut. Jonah's jaw clenched. He didn't say anything. Not yet. The next day, he asked Olivia for a favor. Can you show me how the supply orders are tracked? She blinked.
Why?
Just curious. Trying to learn the ropes. She shrugged and showed him the inventory screen. Jonah took mental notes: dates, inconsistencies, fake numbers. Stuff only someone from the top would notice. Later that day, Trent cornered him. You asking too many questions for a temp, Daniel. Jonah smiled. Just trying to learn, sir. Trent leaned in, breath sour. Don't get clever. You work here, you do what I say. Got it? Jonah nodded slowly. Got it. But inside, he was boiling. He spent the rest of the day working alongside Olivia, filing outdated papers, and watching more people silently stay late, unpaid, while Trent sat in the office scrolling his phone. That night, Jonah couldn't sleep. He'd inherited a business built on dignity. His dad used to say, "We don't sell paper. We sell trust." And here it was being buried under unfiled returns and silent overtime. He was done watching. Tomorrow, he'd confront it. But not as Daniel. Jonah arrived before sunrise. The parking lot was empty except for a dented maintenance van and Olivia's small hybrid, parked crooked near the loading dock. Rain had soaked the pavement overnight, and the air still carried the chill of a storm that hadn't fully left. He wore the same borrowed uniform, a faded blue polo with a stitched-on "Hello, my name is Daniel" tag, but his posture had changed. Tighter.
Sharper.
He moved quickly through the back entrance, bypassing the creaky time clock without swiping in. The warehouse was quiet. Only the low hum of the HVAC system and the distant beeping of a delivery truck across the street filled the space. He found Olivia in the stockroom, kneeling on the concrete floor with a box of defective toner cartridges. Her hands were stained black. She looked up briefly, eyes tired but focused. "You're early," she said without surprise. "I couldn't sleep," Jonah replied, crouching beside her. "I started thinking about something you said yesterday." She returned her attention to the box. "Which part? The illegal overtime or the fact that we're tracking inventory with 6-year-old software?" He gave a dry laugh, then reached to help sort through the returns. "Neither. You said Trent fakes the approved hours when corporate checks in. He's got people signing off on sheets that don't show the truth." She nodded. "He keeps 2 logs. One digital, one paper. Paper goes to district.
Digital stays in his office.
Nobody else sees it. Do you know where he keeps the backup? In his filing drawer. 3rd one down. He locks it, but the key's taped under his desk. He's not exactly subtle." Jonah paused, then straightened up. "I need you to cover for me. Just for 10 minutes. She looked up sharply. "What are you about to do?" "Something overdue." Jonah slipped into the front office while Trent was still out grabbing his usual oversized coffee from the gas station down the street. The office was dim, cluttered with unopened mail, a cracked monitor, and a half-eaten bag of chips. He ducked under the desk, peeled off the brittle tape, and took the small brass key. The 3rd drawer clicked open. Inside were printed schedules, timesheets, and 3 personal notebooks. Jonah flipped through them quickly. Each page listed a week's worth of staffing hours, handwritten, altered, and signed off with forged initials. Names of hourly workers matched the official log, but the hours didn't. People listed for 8-hour shifts were actually working 10 or 11. He took out his phone and snapped clear photos of every page. Then he saw something else, a stapled report titled Incident Logs. There were only 5 pages, but each one outlined a complaint. Names were redacted, but the handwriting was unmistakably Trent's. Employee refuses to stay past scheduled shift. Warned for attitude. Claims of back pain, possibly faking. Assigned to unloading to test. Repeated complaints from female employee may be trying to build a case. Watch closely. Jonah's grip tightened on the stapled papers. He photographed every word, then returned everything exactly as he found it. As he locked the drawer and retaped the key under the desk, Trent's voice rang out from the hallway. Daniel, you touchin' anything in there? Jonah stepped out calmly. Just dropping off the order list Olivia gave me. Trent eyed him, then glanced into the office. Next time knock. Jonah gave a nod and walked off. Behind him, Trent muttered something under his breath. By noon, the store was buzzing. A shipment was late, and customers were growing impatient. Jonah was assigned to handle cart returns and stock the printer aisle. Olivia managed the receiving bay almost single-handedly, while Greg handled customer pickup. Around 1, a new face arrived, a teenage girl with pale skin and a soft cast on her wrist. She stood awkwardly near the back entrance, holding a folder and a small lunchbox. Can I help you?
Jonah asked.
I'm Chloe. I start today. The agency sent me. He looked at her wrist. You okay to lift boxes? They said I could do return sorting. Nothing heavy. Olivia came around the corner and raised a brow. Trent knows she's got a brace? He signed off on it, Chloe said quickly. Said I'd be fine. Jonah stayed close by as Chloe was quietly directed to the returns desk. She moved carefully, logging defective items and scanning barcodes. Within 10 minutes, Trent appeared. He looked at her brace, then down at her paperwork. You're moving slow. Chloe flinched. I'm doing the entries. You're not here to milk the clock, Trent said, loud enough for 2 nearby employees to hear. I don't care what your wrist looks like. You're not special. Jonah stepped forward. She's doing fine. Returns are caught up. Trent turned. You don't speak for me, Daniel. You're a temp. She's a temp. You both do what I say. Jonah didn't blink. Maybe stop threatening teenagers in front of witnesses. Trent's expression shifted, but before he could reply, the district manager walked in through the front entrance. A tall, no-nonsense woman in a charcoal blazer. Her name was Dana. Jonah had only met her once, briefly, when she was first hired. She didn't see him at first. Trent straightened like a wire.
Dana.
Didn't know you were coming. I'm not here for you, she said. I'm here on a complaint follow-up. Got a call from corporate this morning. Jonah stepped into the open.
Dana froze.
Her eyes narrowed. Mr. Granger? Trent's head jerked sideways. What? Let's talk in your office, Jonah said. Dana nodded once and followed him. Inside, the door shut behind them. Dana stayed quiet as Jonah pulled out his phone and placed it on the desk. He opened the photo gallery and handed it to her. She scrolled through each image silent, jaw tightening with every page. Who else knows about this? She asked. Just me and Olivia. She's the only one who hasn't quit or collapsed from exhaustion. Dana handed the phone back. What do you want done? Terminate Trent. Immediately. I want Olivia promoted to interim manager. Get HR on site today. I want exit interviews with every employee who's still here. And we're paying every single unpaid hour, including the ones going back 6 months. Dana nodded. Done. They stepped out of the office together. The front of the store had quieted down. Trent stood near the register, confused and pale. Trent, Dana said flatly. You're relieved of your position. Effective immediately. He laughed once, nervously. Wait, what is this? You've been falsifying time records, threatening staff, and violating labor laws. You're done. Security's on the way. Trent's face turned gray. He looked around, but no one moved. Olivia stepped out from the back, arms crossed. You can't be serious, Trent said. You're taking her word over mine? No, Jonah said, stepping closer. They're taking mine? Trent stared, then suddenly realized. You're not a temp. Jonah didn't answer. Security arrived 10 minutes later. Trent didn't argue as he was walked out. Just kept muttering, mostly to himself. Jonah turned to Olivia. You okay to take the lead? She blinked, surprised. You sure? You've already been doing it. Now you'll just get paid for it.
Greg walked over, wide-eyed.
What the hell just happened? Jonah looked around at the staff, tired, confused, but standing a little straighter. Something overdue, he said quietly. Dana clapped once. Let's get HR in here. We've got some back pay to calculate. For the first time since Jonah had arrived, the air in Store 9 felt lighter. Not fixed, not healed, but honest. By the following morning, word had traveled fast. Jonah returned to Store 9 under his real name this time.
No uniform, no clipboard.
Just dark slacks, a coat over his arm, and the same quiet intensity he'd carried when he first walked through the back door as Daniel. This time, the employees didn't avoid eye contact. They didn't whisper or look away. They watched him openly, some with curiosity, others with a kind of guarded hope. Olivia was in the office already, reviewing the shift schedule printed off from the outdated system. The chair behind the desk had been wiped down, and the loose papers that once cluttered Trent's workspace had been carefully stacked into bins. She stood when Jonah walked in. "I didn't think you'd come back this early," she said, brushing her fingers against her temple where a loose curl had fallen. "I couldn't stay away," Jonah replied. "I wanted to see what the place looked like without rot in the walls." She gestured to the desk. "It's not fixed, but it's breathing again." He nodded, then glanced at the wall clock. "HR show up yet?" "They're setting up in the break room." "Dana's with them. They brought in 2 reps from the labor compliance team, too." "Good." He turned, about to leave, but Olivia stopped him. "There's something we didn't talk about yesterday." "Chloe." Jonah's face darkened slightly. "Go on." "She didn't come back today. Her agency called and said she withdrew. When I asked why, they just said she requested reassignment." He exhaled through his nose. "She shouldn't have been put in that situation." "No, she shouldn't. And she's not the only one. I've got a folder of exit notes from the last 3 months. Same story. People mistreated, dismissed, pushed out." "Let me see them." She handed him the folder, and Jonah sat down with it in the break room beside the HR reps. He reviewed the notes quietly while staff came in one at a time for their interviews. Some of the feedback was brief. Others filled entire pages. A pattern emerged: Trent's management wasn't just negligent. It had been actively corrosive. Staff had been punished for things as small as taking bathroom breaks too close to closing. One employee had been pressured to lift pallets after disclosing a back injury. Another was denied schedule flexibility for a child's medical appointments. Jonah pushed the folder to the edge of the table and leaned forward. "Are we prepared to offer reinstatement to anyone who wants it?"
Dana nodded.
"We've already reached out to 7 former employees. 2 are interested. 1 wants to come today. Give them priority onboarding. And I want a full-time HR presence here for the next 3 weeks. Not remote on-site." A younger HR rep, a man in a navy vest, raised a hand slightly. "That's doable. But we're going to need to reallocate from another location. Do it." He stood and left the room. Out on the floor, Greg was helping a customer find printer ink. His voice was calm, but there was a noticeable tightness in his shoulders. Jonah waited until the customer walked off before stepping beside him. "You holding up?" Greg looked over with a tired half-grin. "I didn't expect to still have a job today. So yeah, better than I thought. I read your exit slip from 2 weeks ago. Said you were planning to quit." "Yeah." "What made you stay?" Greg hesitated. "Honestly, Olivia. She told me to give it 1 more week. Said something was going to change." Jonah folded his arms. "You trust her. She's never lied to us. I want to get your input on something. You've been here longer than most. If you had your way, what would you change first?" Greg didn't answer right away. He adjusted a box on the shelf, then spoke without looking up. "Split receiving from inventory. It's too much for 1 person. And backroom needs a second scanner. Ours has been glitching for a month. Also, break coverage. People skip lunch because No one's free to cover. Jonah listened carefully. Anything else?
Yeah.
Stop using temps like duct tape. Either hire them or let them go. People deserve to know where they stand. Fair. He thanked Greg, then made his way to the front counter. Mia was ringing up a customer, moving with speed but not the robotic efficiency he'd seen days ago. Her eyes were clearer. She caught sight of him after the customer left. "You're not pretending anymore," she said dryly. "Nope." She raised an eyebrow. "So you're the guy who signs my checks?" "I suppose I am." "Then sign off on some chairs that don't squeak when you breathe." He grinned. "Done." She leaned on the counter, voice lowering. "You got Trent out. That's more than anyone's done here in 2 years. That's just the start. You going to be around? Or is this one of those drop-in, clean-up, disappear things?" "I'll be around." He meant it. By early afternoon, the former employee Olivia had mentioned arrived. Her name was Sarita, a logistics specialist who had quit 6 weeks ago after repeated clashes with Trent. She was in her early 40s, wore steel-toed boots and a neon orange vest, and spoke with the kind of directness Jonah respected immediately. "I'm not coming back out of charity," she said while shaking his hand. "You want the back room fixed, I'll fix it. But I want full hours, proper support, and no more games." "You'll get it," Jonah replied. "You report to Olivia. And if anything feels off, you come to me." She didn't smile, but she nodded. That was enough. Throughout the rest of the day, Jonah shadowed every department. He met with the day shift cashier and the night stalker. He watched how returns were processed, how customer calls were routed, how supplies were stored. He didn't interrupt. He just watched, asked questions, and took notes. Just after 4, Olivia found him outside near the loading dock, standing beside a shipping container that had arrived late. "You're still here," she said, crossing her arms. "So are you." She took a breath. "I've been thinking about that promotion." He turned toward her. "I'm not saying no. But if I do this, I want to be allowed to hire my own assistant manager. Someone internal who knows the floor."
Who?
She didn't hesitate.
Mia.
"She's sharp, she doesn't take crap, and she knows how to move people without barking orders."
Done.
Olivia studied him. "You're not what I expected. Neither are you." She looked out at the lot, where a driver was unloading the last of the shipment. "Don't let this place slip again." "I won't." There was no dramatic music, no applause. Just a quiet exchange between two people who understood that fixing something broken wasn't about grand gestures. It was about showing up the next day. And the one after that. And never pretending not to see what's in front of you. 2 weeks had passed since Jonah dropped the disguise. Store 9 hadn't magically transformed, it still ran short-staffed during peak hours. The floor still creaked near aisle 6, and the break room fridge still made a low buzzing sound that irritated everyone. But something fundamental had shifted. People had stopped whispering. The morning crew arrived early, as usual. Jonah was already inside, reviewing the first round of restructuring proposals Dana had sent over. He sat in the corner of the break room, not behind a desk, but at the same table where the staff ate. A legal pad in front of him, half a muffin untouched beside a coffee that had already gone cold. Olivia entered with a binder tucked under one arm. "Hiring's moving slower than I hoped," she said, sitting across from him. 2 interviews yesterday, both solid. But they're wary." "Of what?" "Of another Trent," she said, flipping the binder open. "Some of them talked to old employees. Words out about what used to happen here." Jonah leaned forward. "We can't erase what happened, but we can give them something real now." "You think either of them would take the job if we offered a trial period?" She considered it. "Maybe. If they work 3 weeks and feel respected, they stay. If not, we part ways clean. No pressure. Put it in writing. And make sure they know their hours are protected. No more guesswork." They both looked up as Mia walked in, holding a clipboard and a pair of thick gloves. We've got a freight delay, she said. Truck stuck on the freeway. ETA's 4 hours. Olivia closed the binder. That puts us into the late shift. Yeah, Mia said, setting the clipboard down. I've got 3 people who can stay. I'll cover the rest. But we'll need to rotate brakes tighter. Jonah nodded. Do what you need. But no one misses their break. If we need to shut a section down temporarily, we do it. Mia looked at him for a long second, like she was still adjusting to the idea of being taken seriously. All right, she said finally. I'll reshuffle. When she left, Olivia tapped her fingers on the table once. That clipboard she's carrying? It's split by task, not by hour. She's tracking work done, not just time passed. Jonah smiled faintly. That's how my dad used to do it. She didn't learn it from him. No, she learned it from watching everything he didn't. He stood and stretched, then motioned toward the front. Walk with me. They passed the copy paper aisle where Greg was helping a woman load a box into her cart. He gave a quick nod but didn't break stride. Focused, efficient, no wasted breath. At the customer service desk, Sarita was working through a backlog of returns with a younger employee named Jalen, one of the new hires Olivia had fought to bring on, despite pushback from headquarters about his lack of retail experience. He's sharp, Olivia whispered as they walked by. Picked up the refund system in half a shift. Sarita says he's better than half the floor already. Keep him learning, Jonah replied. Give him a mentor if he wants it. As they reached the front, Dana was already waiting near the glass doors, a slim folder in hand, and a look that said she wasn't here to chat. Got a minute? She asked. Always, Jonah said. They stepped aside, and Dana opened the folder. Employee feedback summary. 44 completed surveys. 90% report improved morale. 72% say they feel safer reporting issues. But here's the part you'll care about: sales are up. Jonah raised an eyebrow. Already? 4% over last month. Not massive. But considering we lost a manager, overhauled the schedule, and slowed down operations to fix compliance, that's rare. What's the other 10% saying? Dana flipped a page. They want better training. Some feel overwhelmed with system updates. A few say expectations haven't been clearly explained. We can fix that. We already started, she said. Olivia's designing a cross-training program with Mia. Greg's writing a reference guide for the scanner system. And Sarita's drafting an inventory flowchart. Jonah blinked. We didn't ask them to. Dana shut the folder. You didn't have to. They fell quiet for a moment, watching through the glass as a customer walked in holding a torn receipt and a broken stapler. Jalen met him with a polite nod. I'll be honest, Dana said. I didn't think the store was worth saving. But it's becoming a blueprint. I don't want a blueprint, Jonah said. I want a standard. Dana gave a small nod. Then you're going to have to hold the rest of your locations accountable. I'm ready. She turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. The labor compliance rep we brought in? She filed a report. Said Trent had a history. There were flagged complaints at 2 other branches before he landed here. Jonah's jaw tightened. And no one caught it? Someone buried it. We're investigating. Find out who. I want names. She nodded and left. Jonah walked back toward the center of the store, where Olivia was checking in with a new stalker who was struggling to find the right shelf for a specialty printer cable. She didn't take the box from his hand. She pointed, explained, let him try again. When he got it right, she gave a single nod and moved on. No praise parade, just trust. Near the checkout, Greg was joking with a line of customers. The card reader beeped. Receipts printed clean. The line moved. In the back, Mia was reviewing the adjusted schedule with 2 part-timers who looked surprised but relieved when she pointed out that their breaks had been shifted earlier to avoid the late surge. Everything was still held together with duct tape and hustle. But now, at least, the tape was being applied by people who cared. Jonah returned to the break room and picked up the muffin he'd left untouched earlier. It was cold now, but he didn't mind. He sat down, took a bite, and flipped open his legal pad. At the top, he wrote, "What happens when you stop believing the numbers and start listening to the people?" Below that, he scribbled the first draft of a new policy. No employee, temporary or permanent, will ever work unpaid hours. Then another, every manager will be reviewed by their own staff biannually. All feedback matters. And then, every store must have a direct line to the top. No more walls. No more silence. He closed the notebook.
Stood.
Walked back out onto the floor. No announcements. No speeches. Just a quiet decision to stay accountable. Because a company isn't built by policies. It's built by the people who stay late, carry the weight, and never stop showing up even when no one's watching.